Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, as you remember, we installed a new tile backsplash here. Well, now after the tile backsplash has dried and everything is thoroughly dry, we're going to come in here and we're going to put a bead of silicone along this bottom edge right here so that we have a nice tight waterproof area that no moisture is going to get behind the tile and wind up damaging the drywall behind it. All right, so let me show you what we're going to do, and then we're going to get started and we're going to get this job done. The thing we're going to need first is we're going to need some painter's tape, any type of painter's tape, whether it's this wide or a little thinner, whatever works for you. We are going to need the silicone that we're going to be using. This is the one that I'm using because it actually has it's the color that I wanted for it. Of course, we're going to need a utility knife, and then we're going to need something very thin to get in and puncture the inside of the tube to release the silicone. What we're going to do, just so you know, we're going to take the tip off, and the very tip of it right here, we're going to cut it at a very, very small, like 1/8 of an inch, between a 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch. Because what we want to do is we want to be able to take this tube, put it all the way down inside here, and run it along here so we have a nice, tight, thin bead of silicone. We don't want it too thick, because the thicker the bead of silicone is, the more waste you're going to have and the more mess you're going to have. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our tape. We're going to put our tape along the bottom right over here, and we're going to put a bead of tape along here as well to minimize the mess that we're going to have. We're going to leave about an 1/8 of an inch to maybe 3/16 of an inch for the silicone to go on the counter, and about 1/8 to 3/16 up on the top right up in here. All right, so enough talking. Let's get in there. Let's tape this up, and then we're going to get this job done. Okay, so when you put your tape down on the whether it's on the granite countertop or if it's on the tile backsplash, you want to run a small section at a time so you can keep the gap in here, as we said, about 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch. So we do small sections at a time, and then we'll move on and make sure we have the line exactly straight. Now remember, your tiles are going to be a little bit not exactly straight, so if the line changes a little bit, it's not a big deal. All right, but we're going to do a small section at a time. Okay, the next thing now we're going to do is, after we have our tape down across the bottom here, we're going to take our utility knife and we're going to cut the tip of this at a very, very sharp angle. And remember, we're only going to make it about 1/8 of an inch, a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. So remember, you could take off more later, but you can't put it back on. So make sure you cut it fairly thin. And you want to cut it at approximately a 45-degree angle so that it looks sort of, can you see that? So it looks sort of like that, okay? And then we're going to puncture inside here because there's a little seal down inside there, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this and we're going to turn it so that it's actually at a good angle to the countertop that we're going to be working on. When we put this in here, we're going to put it in here like this, and we're going to run a bead of silicone across all the way into the corner. We are going to make sure we have a couple of rags, and then we're going to thin it out with our finger to make sure it's inside the groove as far as it can go. All right, so let's poke a hole inside here because there's a little seal down in the bottom. We're going to poke that through, just like that. All right, and then we'll take our sealant and we'll bring it inside here, and we're going to run a small little bead of silicone down in this area right here. We're going to squeeze it and move at the same time. you'll have a little bit of like an air pocket sometimes. If you do, don't worry about it, because we're going to come back to that later on and we're going to smooth it out. Okay, now once you finish with the silicone, make sure you release the pressure on it, otherwise the silicone is just going to keep coming out. Okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to continue down here, do the exact same thing down there. We're going to do first, before we do that, we're going to come in here with our finger and we're going to go like this in here and run it all the way down, and vice versa from this corner and run it all the way down. All right, so let's do that. Okay, stop. Clean your hand off, of course. And now we're going to go the other direction just to make sure that all of the little air bubbles are gone. Okay? All right, so this part is done. I'm going to do that part, and then we'll come back and we'll pull that tape off. So don't let this dry too long. You want to have it before the silicone dries, we want to get this tape off. So let me do the other end, and we'll continue there. Okay, now once we have that bead of silicone run down inside there, we're going to wet our finger, we're going to come down and we're going to smooth that line out. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to wipe off the excess silicone off of our finger, and then we're going to go the opposite direction to make sure we have all of those voids in there filled in. And now after we've smoothed out the silicone, we're going to take the end of it here and we're going to pull this off. And we're going to keep this at an angle so that we don't get it all over the silicone that we have on here. Just like that. And we'll peel it off. Now be careful, because it is going to be messy. As you know, silicone is a little bit sticky, of course. And then we're going to peel it off like this, all the way down to the other side. And then we'll come back and we'll do the exact same thing on the bottom countertop. Okay, that one's off. And we'll do the exact same thing on the bottom. Again, being careful. You don't want the silicone to get back onto your project. Like that. And you definitely want to do this before the silicone cures, because once the silicone cures, it's going to be very difficult to get it off. Okay, so let me show you now what it looks like when it's finished. All right, you can see how it's a nice clean line. The thing I would recommend, of course, is don't touch it, because if you touch it, wait for it to thoroughly dry before you get in there and touch anything. All right, and that's it. Okay, so next we will move our attention to the opposite side of the kitchen. We taped up everything as we did on the previous side. We did the tile and we did the granite itself. We moved the stove out so we can have better, so we can get back behind the stove better. And of course we ran our bead of silicone from the left to the right, or right to left, whichever works for you. We smoothed it out with our fingers. And then before it dries, we come in here with our tape and remove it. And then this side is finished and it looks great. All right, so that's it. This job is all done. Just make sure your silicone dries thoroughly. Don't touch it until it's thoroughly dried, and you'll have a nice, perfect job. If you want those straight edges, just put that tape on there, and you'll be very happy with how this project comes out. All right, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next one.